Okay, bit of a fun topic for this week, talking about organisational politics. Organisational politics is not the party politics that you see, but it has a lot of the same characteristics. And what we're talking about when we talk about politics is power games that are not related to official organisational requirements or procedures. And the degree to which people engage in some of these power games does tend to make the analysis of organisations for those of us paid to do that a hell of a lot more interesting. But it is something that the manager needs to be very much on guard against, because it rarely has a positive outcome for the organisation. But realistically, companies are subject to getting themselves involved with politics. And if you think about the nature of an organisation, nature of a company, you can understand why this is so. Because frankly, companies with their levels of managers and middle managers and sales managers and lower level functionaries, and all the way down to the shop floor, they are characterised by a difference in hierarchy or rank. Those different ranks tend to get rewarded differently with more wages or more prestige. There is always a lack of resources within companies. There's not endless supplies of money to answer everybody's whim and reward everybody to the level they believe they deserve to be rewarded. And there's also an unequal distribution of knowledge or expertise. So all these characteristics set up power imbalances within the organisation that are perfect breeding ground for the creation of politics. But realistically, as a manager, you have to realize that that's happening, and you need to learn to skillfully deal with it. So what does a leader have to do in order to deal with the politics? Perhaps the first thing is to address the issue of accurate information and delivering information, to attempt to control what is another inevitable consequence of politics, which is gossip. Often they're almost symptomatic of each other. Politics is symptomatic of gossip, and gossip is symptomatic of politics. But you can circumvent this problem within the organisation by freely breathing, allowing information to breathe through the organisation so that everyone has access to accurate information. The issue of employee voice. The information shouldn't just be top down, but also be accurately heard at the higher levels of the organisation. This can reduce one of the good matrices in which politics and gossip can form, one of the petri dishes, if you want to use a biological example or biological metaphor. Secondly, you can pile in, join in the politics and start to build coalitions, positive coalitions hopefully, that help to give you the power to address some of the negativity within the organisation that might appear. You need to work out where the stakeholders are within the organisations, but a common mistake that managers make, and a common mistake all of us make, is focusing too much on buttering up people in the higher echelons of a structure and ignoring the non-obvious stakeholders. Sometimes key people within an organisation can be at a very low level within the organisation. They're capable of watching what's happening within the organisation and reporting to you as a boss what's happening accurately, enable you to take the temperature, so to speak, of the politics within the organisations. And organisations can rot from the ground up. You've probably heard of the term rotten apple, and this is one of the interesting minor debates that goes on in organisational theory. Is the rotten apple truly an individual that's rotten and spreading the rot through the organisation, as you see in a barrel of apples, or is the barrel itself rotten? And this is referred to as the rotten barrel theory, that the organisation has something about it that's essentially rotten and causes apples within it to rot. And then there's a third variant, which is very rarely talked about, called the rotten orchard theory, and that claims that the whole system in which we operate, which you could say in our case is capitalism, is rotten and causes rot to set in barrels and in apples, as well as the individual rotten apple. So in order to deal with some of these challenges, apart from information, the organisation manager needs to set clear goals and seek to bring people on board rather than using a punitive or coercive power to get their way. It's easier said than done because this sometimes goes against issues like corporate confidentiality and the intellectual capital of an organisation. But nevertheless, if you trust your employees, then this is a path to getting things done. And if you don't trust your employees, you have yet another primary condition in which politics can begin to fester. I hope that was useful.